She took the promise ring I gave her and pawned it for cash. When I found out, she said, "Don't be mad, it was just sitting there." I just smiled, but weeks later she learned exactly who was wearing the new one. I noticed the empty space on her nightstand first. The small velvet line box where she was supposed to keep the promise ring was open and vacant. It was the first ring I had ever designed and crafted myself from the initial sketch to the final polish. When I asked her where it was, she didn't even have the decency to look guilty. She just shrugged, a casual, dismissive gesture that ripped the air out of my lungs. Oh, that I needed some cash for this marketing seminar, so I pawned it. I just stared at her, waiting for the punchline. It never came. She saw the look on my face and rolled her eyes. "Don't be mad," she said, her voice laced with annoyance. It was just sitting there. I didn't explode. I didn't even raise my voice. A strange cold calm washed over me and I smiled. A real, genuine smile. Because in that single brutal moment of clarity, she hadn't just given me an excuse. She had given me an idea. A brilliant, terrible idea. She thought the ring was just an object. She was about to learn that a symbol has power. And in a few weeks, she wasn't just going to see a new ring. She was going to see it on the one person in the world she never wanted to see succeed. And she would finally understand what it feels like when a promise is truly kept. My life is built on promises. As a custom jeweler, my clients don't just buy a piece of metal and stone from me. They buy a symbol. They buy a story forged in fire and pressure meant to last a lifetime. I'm 38, and I've spent the last decade building my business from a small bench in my garage to a respected private studio downtown. My hands are calloused and my eyes are trained to see the smallest flaw, the slightest imperfection. I thought my relationship with Amber, my girlfriend of 2 years, was as solid as the gold I work with. Amber is 31. When we met, she was working in retail, full of big dreams, but with no real plan. She talked about starting her own event planning business, about being a boss, about creating beautiful experiences. I believed in that dream. I paid for her to take business courses, helped her build a website, and introduced her to my network of clients. For the first year, things were great. I thought we were building a future. She moved into my house, the one I bought and renovated myself, 8 months ago. The shift was subtle at first. Her business seemed to consist mostly of long lunches and networking events that never led to actual clients. She started talking less about her dreams and more about the things she deserved. A new car, a bigger wardrobe, trips she saw other influencers taking on Instagram. I was paying for everything. The mortgage, the bills, her car payment, her credit card, all under the assumption that this was a temporary investment while her business got off the ground. I see now that I wasn't an investor. I was a grant. The promise ring was something I made for our 1-year anniversary. It wasn't extravagant, but it was personal. A simple, elegant band of white gold with a small, perfect sapphire, her birthstone set in the center. I'd spent over 100 hours on it, sketching designs, sourcing the stone, and crafting it by hand. It was a piece of me, a tangible promise of a future I intended to build with her. She seemed to love it. She cried when I gave it to her. Last week, I noticed she wasn't wearing it. When I asked, she said she'd taken it off to clean it and forgot to put it back on. A day later, I saw the empty box. That's when the confrontation happened. No remorse, no apology, just that cold, dismissive excuse. It was just sitting there. She had taken a piece of my soul, a symbol of my commitment, and liquidated it for a few hundred to attend a seminar that was likely just another excuse to drink cocktails and take selfies. The disrespect was absolute. It wasn't a mistake. It was a fundamental statement about her character. She saw my love as a commodity. After she went out that night to meet a potential client, I went into her home office, a room I designed and furnished for her. It took me less than 5 minutes to find the pawn ticket tucked into her planner. She'd gotten $400 for it. $400 for a piece that had cost me thousands in materials and 100 hours of my life. The ticket had the name and address of the pawn shop. My professional mind took over from the emotional one. The relationship was a failed project. It was time to cut my losses and demolish the structure. First, I secured my assets. I logged into my bank accounts. I froze the joint credit card we had or household expenses. I transferred the balance from our joint checking account, all of which was my money, into my personal savings. I changed the password to the Wi-Fi. I logged her out of the streaming services. The small comforts she took for granted were the first to go. Second, I did some research. This marketing seminar she was so desperate to attend. A quick search revealed it was a 3-day event in Las Vegas hosted by some self-proclaimed guru who specialized in teaching women how to manifest a luxury lifestyle. The tickets were $500. She was still short. She'd pawned a piece of our future and couldn't even cover the full cost of her scam seminar. It was pathetic. Third, and this was the most important step, I began to design. I sat down at my workbench, the place where I had created her ring, and I started sketching. But this time, I wasn't designing a ring for Amber. I was designing a ring about Amber. It would be a masterpiece of symbolic revenge, a story told in golden stone. She came home late that night humming and didn't even notice the cold silence. In the house, she didn't notice that the Wi-Fi was off or that I didn't speak to her. She just went to bed wrapped in a cocoon of her own entitlement. Let her sleep. Let her dream of her luxury lifestyle. I was wide awake and I was about to craft a reality that was far more valuable and for her far more devastating. Update 1. 1 week later. The support from this community has been a fire in the forge, hardening my resolve. Many of you have shared your own stories of betrayal, and it's a grim comfort to know I'm not alone. The day after I discovered the pawn ticket was a day of quiet, methodical action. I went to the pawn shop. It was a sad, dusty place that smelled of desperation. I showed the owner my business card and the original design sketches for the ring, along with the receipt for the sapphire. I wasn't there to buy it back. I was there to document. The owner, a weary-looking man named S., remembered Amber. "Yeah, she came in a few days ago," he said, looking at the ticket. Said it was from an old boyfriend that it had bad memories. The lie was so effortless for her. I asked S if I could see the security footage. I explained the situation, that it was a custom piece stolen from my home and that I was building a case. He was surprisingly cooperative. He showed me the video. There she was, smiling, laughing with him as she signed the paperwork, handing over the ring without a moment's hesitation. I had him make me a copy, evidence. I didn't buy the ring back, letting it sit there. An emblem of her cheap betrayal in a dusty glass case felt right. It was where it belonged now. When I got home, Amber was in a panic. Her credit card had been declined when she tried to buy her plane ticket to Vegas. She was furious, demanding to know what was wrong with our account. "There's nothing wrong with my account," I said, my voice even. "I've simply secured it. The joint card has been canceled." "Canceled?" she shrieked. "Why would you do that? How am I supposed to buy my ticket? That sounds like a personal problem, Amber, not a joint one. This is because of the ring, isn't it?" She spat, finally realizing this was a calculated move, not a glitch. "I can't believe you're being so petty over a piece of jewelry. It wasn't just jewelry and you know it," I said. I pulled out the pawn ticket and tossed it on the table in front of her. "You got $400 for it. I hope it was worth it." The sight of the ticket shut her down. The anger drained away, replaced by a flicker of fear. She had been caught, and the consequences were starting to manifest. She tried to pivot to tears, saying she was desperate that she would pay me back. I just shook my head. "No, you won't. We're done. I want you out of my house. You can't kick me out," she cried. "I have nowhere to go." "You have 30 days, I said, handing her a formal printed eviction notice as she was legally a tenant. "I suggest you start looking for a new place to live and a new source of income." My sponsorship has ended. The next week was a tense, miserable affair. She stayed, mostly confined to the guest room, alternating between hostile silence and tearful, manipulative apologies. She didn't go to her seminar. She couldn't afford it. Instead, she spent her days on the phone with her friends, loudly complaining about how cruel and controlling I was being. Meanwhile, I worked. I spent every spare moment in my studio bringing my new design to life, the revenge piece. It was a necklace, not a ring, a stunning, intricate pendant crafted from platinum. At its center, I set a deep blood-red ruby, a stone symbolizing passion and rage. Surrounding the ruby, I set a halo of tiny, flawless black, diamonds representing the darkness and deceit of her actions. It was the most beautiful and most menacing piece I had ever created. It was a story of betrayal made immortal in metal and stone, and I knew exactly who was going to wear it. Amber has a younger sister, Qley. Qley is everything Amber is not. She's quiet, hardworking, and kind. She's a nurse, and she has a gentle strength that I've always admired. Amber has always been deeply, poisonously jealous of her. She sees Qley's simple, responsible life as a judgment on her own chaotic one. She constantly belittles her, calls her boring, and mocks her practical choices. Qley and I had always been friendly. She was the only member of Amber's family who ever treated me with genuine warmth. She had called me a few days after the blow-up, having heard Amber's hysterical, one-sided version of events. I told her the truth calmly and with the facts to back it up. She was quiet for a long time, and then she just said, "I'm so sorry, David. You didn't deserve that." I asked her to meet me for coffee. She was hesitant, not wanting to get in the middle, but she agreed. I showed her the necklace. Her eyes went wide. "It's beautiful," she whispered. "But who is it for?" "It's for you," I said. Update 2. 2 weeks later, Qley was stunned. She stared at the necklace, then at me. Her expression, a mix of confusion and disbelief. "Thank you to everyone here for the continued support. This has been a strange path to walk, but your comments have been a guide for me," Qley asked, her voice barely a whisper. "David, I can't accept this. It's too much. It's not a romantic gift, Qley," I explained, my voice gentle but firm. "I need you to understand that this is a thank you for being a good person, for the kindness you've shown me when no one else in your family would. And it's a symbol. Your sister took a promise I made and treated it like trash. I wanted to create a new promise, a promise that decency and hard work, the things you represent, are what's truly valuable." She was still hesitant. "But Amber, she'll lose her mind." "Yes, she will," I said, "and frankly, that's part of the point. She needs to see this. She needs to understand what she threw away. I want you to wear it to your parents' anniversary party next Saturday." The party? It was the perfect stage, the one big family event of the summer. Amber was planning on going. Of course. It was her chance to play the victim, to tell everyone her soba story about her cruel ex. She had no idea what was waiting for her. Qley thought about it for a long time, turning the heavy platinum pendant over in her hands. "She's been awful to me my whole life," she said quietly, "always trying to make me feel small, always jealous of anything good that happened to me." She looked up at me, a new determination in her eyes. "Okay, I'll do it." The week leading up to the party was the final week of Amber's eviction notice. The tension in the house was unbearable. She had found a small, cheap apartment across town, and the reality of her new life was hitting her hard. The freelance event planning business was a fantasy. She had no clients, no income, and no savings. She had started asking me for money, for an extension, for anything. I refused. On the day of the party, she was a wreck. She spent hours on her hair and makeup, putting on a brave face, a costume of success that was paper thin. I was also going to the party for one reason only, to watch the final act. We drove separately. When I walked into her parents' backyard, the party was in full swing. Amber was already holding court, surrounded by a circle of sympathetic relatives, no doubt spinning her tale of woe. I just nodded politely to her parents and got a drink, positioning myself with a clear view of the entrance. 10 minutes later, Qley arrived. She was wearing a simple, elegant black dress, and against her skin, the ruby and black diamond necklace was a supernova. It was breathtaking. The blood-red ruby seemed to pulse with a life of its own, and the black diamonds glittered like a dark constellation. It was impossible to miss. The reaction was immediate. Conversation stuttered and stopped. People turned to stare. Amber's mother was the first to approach her. "Qley, my goodness, where did you get that?" Qley just smiled. It was a gift. Amber saw it. Then I watched her face as she processed the scene. The confusion, the dawning realization, the pure, unadulterated rage. She marched across the lawn, her face a thundercloud. "Where did you get that?" she demanded, her voice shaking. "David gave it to me," Qley said, her voice calm and clear, loud enough for everyone nearby to hear. Amber's head snapped towards me. I just raised my glass in a silent toast. You gave her a necklace?" Amber stammered, her mind clearly struggling to catch up. "He did," Qley said, her confidence growing. "He said he wanted to create a new symbol, a symbol of what's actually valuable. Kindness, integrity, things you wouldn't understand." The story was out now. The whispers turned into a roar. People were looking from the necklace to Amber to me, connecting the dots. Her uncle, a man I'd always respected, walked over to me. "Son," he said, his voice low, "her father told me some story about you two having a fight." "What really happened?" I pulled out my phone and showed him the picture of the security footage. Amber at the pawn shop, smiling as she sold my promise ring. He stared at it for a long time, his face hardening. He walked away without a word and went straight to his brother, Amber's father. The party imploded. Amber was screaming at Qley, calling her a traitor. Her father was trying to pull her away. His face beat red with embarrassment. Her mother looked like she was about to faint. I just stood there watching the fire I had so carefully built consume everything. Amber had pawned a symbol of our future for a few hundred. In return, I had created a new symbol, a priceless one, and used it to expose her for exactly who she was in front of everyone she had tried to deceive. She hadn't just lost a ring. She had lost her family's respect, her sister's loyalty, and any shred of the victim narrative she had tried to create. Final update, 3 months later. It's been 3 months since the anniversary party. My life has been blissfully quiet. The house is my own again, and the peace is something I'll never take for granted. I wanted to post one final update to close this chapter. The fallout from that party was, as you can imagine, catastrophic for Amber. The story of her pawning my ring and the subsequent public reveal of the new necklace on her sister became the stuff of family legend. She was completely ostracized. Her parents, embarrassed and furious, apparently gave her an ultimatum. Get a real job and start therapy, or she was completely on her own. Her new life is a far cry from the luxury she felt she deserved. She's working as a receptionist at a dental office. She had to sell her car and now takes the bus. Her social media, once a curated feed of glamorous brunches and fake business meetings, is now silent. She lost her audience both online and in real life. Qley has been the unexpected hero of this story. Wearing that necklace gave her a confidence I'd never seen before. She stood up to Amber and to her parents for the first time in her life. Our friendship has become a solid, genuine bond. We have dinner once a week. She still wears the necklace, not as a trophy, but as a reminder of her own strength. It looks better on her than I ever could have imagined. As for the original ring, I went back to the pawn shop a month ago. It was still there, sitting in the dusty case. I bought it back, not for sentimental reasons, but for the materials. I took it back to my studio, melted down the white gold, and removed the sapphire. The metal was tainted. The promise it represented broken beyond repair. I used the reclaimed gold and the sapphire to create a small, simple pair of earrings. I gave them to my mother for her birthday. I told her the story. She just hugged me and said, "You took something ugly and made it beautiful again. That's who you are." I did get one final pathetic text from Amber a few weeks ago. I saw Qley's Instagram. She's wearing the necklace. "I hope you're both happy. You ruined my life." I typed back a simple reply. "I didn't ruin your life, Amber. I just stopped paying for it." Then I blocked her number for good. The revenge was complete. It wasn't about the money or the drama. It was about the symbolism. She took a promise and sold it for pocket change. I took her betrayal and forged it into a masterpiece that celebrated the very qualities she lacked. She tried to reduce my love to a price tag, and in the end, she's the one who was left completely worthless. She learned that some things can't be bought or sold, and some promises, once broken, are reforged into something much stronger.